was a debate on whether we needed a Bill of Rights, because if they're God given, why do you have to write them down? And so if you write them down, now you're starting to limit them. And so
Yeah.
Those debates have been going on for.
All right, Judge David Klein, thank you for joining me in the den.
Oh, thank you for having me here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. We ran into each other yesterday at Mark Loing's campaign kickoff, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was a nice event.
How do you know Mark?
I met him through the years, just through political, events, functions.
Just an all-around nice guy, huh?
Yeah, he really seems like that.
Cowboy. I love the hat.
Good old boy. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So you are a judge of the 148th District Court.
Yes, sir.
So give me a little qualifications that you need or are required to be a judge real quick.
Well, you've got to be a lawyer, first of all.
Okay.
So, to do that, it's 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of law school, and then there's a minimum practice requirement, and then you're going to have to get elected.
Yeah. That's
so outside of that, there's, once you can get elected, that's pretty much what it takes. And that's winning confidence of your peers and that, and the confidence of the community.
Yes, sir. So to be an attorney, you need 2 years of law school. Is that correct?
3.
3 years of
3
law
years
school.
of law school.
And you first have to have a bachelor's and then 3 years of law school?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the 3 years, the 3-year major can be anything.
Well, in law school, there's not really a major. It's a law degree. Now, your major your undergraduate major can be anything.
Yes, like the bachelor's,
Right.
can be on anything.
That's correct. Now, if you're going to go into the intellectual property bar, then you have to have a science degree to get into that later. But that's kind of a offbeat.
Explain what that is to me. The intellectual.
It's kind of a rabbit trail because those are the guys that write patents and defend trademarks and that sort of. It's a really niche area of the law. And they're the ones that are protecting, the ideas that people come up with and use for their businesses.
Oh, okay. Those would be attorneys.
Yeah.
So you have to go for a specific degree to be able to do that.
Right. You've got to have a science degree.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, other than that, you could be kinesiology and you can go to law school.
It can be kinesiology, art, philosophy, whatever you can do. And then.
Yeah. So the 3 years of law school are pretty tight. Like
they're pretty
it's a lot of information.
Pretty intense. The first year, particularly, is you hit the ground running with getting bombarded with cases, and your first day you're coming into a class and you have a professor who's a tenured law professor asking you questions about the analysis of some Supreme Court case from 1798. And asking, hey, did they get it right? And then every answer you give, they have an answer or another question that makes it look like your answer is wrong.
Right.
It's that Socratic method of, well, if this is right, then what about this? And you have another case that you're reading that says the exact opposite. So you have to learn how to reconcile them, or if they can't be reconciled, you just say, well, they conflict. And
so is like a debate a kind of like a prerequisite? Is it part of law school?
Sort of. It's very similar, but the really skilled debaters have got these. They've got these really specific rules. And when you watch skilled debaters like college debaters, they have these means of well, I win because you never refuted this part back in my second affirmative argument.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not quite like that, but the idea is the same. You're playing by the rules, and you're applying those rules to persuade somebody to do something.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's actually a personality type that is described as a debater,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily that they debate, but that personality type is able to take bits and pieces from different areas of something and tie them together and make sense of something. Is that something that is taught, or is that part of the process of law school to teach how to be able to look at pieces and match them up, if you will?
Well, and you're kind of hitting on the idea of law school. Law school is supposed to teach you how to think a certain way. And so there is a part of that, looking at different pieces of things, because in analyzing any particular legal issue, you have several different legal authorities that you can be consulting. The Constitution might be implicated, both the federal and the state. And that's kind of your baseline. Is everything here in line with the Constitution of the United States and of Texas? And then you've got statutory law, and there can be any number of statutory provisions that get implicated in any particular issue. It could be something that's a single issue, and it can be something that a dozen different statutes get implicated. And then you've got also local ordinances, local rules that may or may not come in. And then there's always procedural rules too, especially in court. There's all kinds of practices of law, but when you're talking about being in court, there's a code of criminal procedure, there's a code of civil procedure, and either one of which might be implicated as well in any issue that comes up in court. So you're right. There may be several different areas that have to be consulted on every issue. So, and that's part of what you get taught. I think one of the easiest ways they've condensed it down is issue spotting. When you look at a situation, part of the test where you have to find all the issues that are in that factual scenario. Like, is there a crime that's been committed? Is there some sort of civil action that is possible? Has a family law been brought into it? So that's a good way to look at it. It's just, you're looking at it and you're trying to think, where are all my problem areas?
Right. I kind of equate that to a preacher who, and for me, this has been the case where if I'm able to find, out of one text, if I'm able to find support throughout the Bible, it almost gives my preaching, if you will, or teaching, or idea of what I'm pulling from the scripture, more basis, more credibility.
Right.
And there's a type of preaching that is verse by verse, which is one way to do it. But I feel as if when you do it verse by verse, it can be a more simple way to preach and teach. But whenever it's like a textual, where you take a text and you bring the truths out of it using other stories and other texts from the scripture that maybe to the naked eye don't seem like they fit, but you're able to discover some truths there that apply to this. And to me, it makes it more beautiful.
And isn't that the beautiful part of it? Because when you can find the support, not just in one particular text, but you can find it from other chapters or other books even, and, make them all make sense. Because, someone who's knowledgeable or just halfway knowledgeable might say, well, what about this? Whenever you're preaching on a particular topic, they may bring up, well, what about this story? How do those two jive together?
Right.
And so when you can do that, that's the kind of analysis that you're really looking for. I think anyway.
Yes, I believe so, because you can make a declaration, if you will, out of a text that just by looking at it might seem legitimate, but when you take the whole counsel of God, of the Word of God, it can be clarified as to what it actually means by bouncing it off of other texts. So it kind of, just by comparing it to other texts, it kind of fine tunes it and tell you this is actually what it means. It cannot mean that because this scripture is adjusting it, if you will, to where it should go. And a lot of times people make statements or declarations off of one text, but you can't do that.
And out of context.
Yes, you cannot do that. It has to be, I would say, weighted down by everything else. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that's the same thing you have to do with the law.
You do that, and a lot of times when you come to something and you look at the text of a statute, for instance, and you get puzzled by what does that mean, and a lot of interpretations that get presented will start ignoring certain text, and there's a basic principle that the legislature meant what they wrote, and they wrote what they meant. So you can't just ignore text, and because that's just cherry picking it out and taking it out of the context. And so there is quite a bit of that. You have to read the whole thing, and you have to pay attention to the legislature most likely did not intend for something to contradict something else.
Correct.
It happens.
Yeah.
And it happens every so often, but when you think about the totality of the text, and then you can really get the idea of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I enjoy listening to all that kind of stuff and figuring things out like that and comparing this to that. Were you a big fan of shows like Perry Mason? No. Matlock? No, nothing.
No.
Really? How come? It seems like there's a reason for that.
I don't know. I found them boring.
Really?
And, the shows like CSI. And, I think the only one I ever really enjoyed was Boston Legal. And that was William Shatner and James Spader. And it just, the wit in it was just really sharp. And so I enjoyed that one.
James Spader, the guy from Pretty in Pink and all those shows.
He's one of those 80s guys that aged and, like a lot of us have. So, but Perry Mason and Matlock, I didn't really get into those.
No, my dad was a big fan of that. He'd watch it all the time and watch the stories on wine. So, but you're familiar with the premise of those shows, right?
Yeah.
So does any of that type of scenarios actually play out in the courtrooms? Do you get that much drama, or is it rare?
It's really rare. By the time you get to a trial, surprises happen. And what I'm going to say is kind of contradictory, but by the time you get to a trial, everything is pretty much choreographed. The witnesses are lined up. Everybody pretty much knows what they're going to say or should say. Now, the surprises come when they don't say what you thought they were going to say. And it happens more in criminal cases because, the first time that witness gets interviewed on a scene, they'll say something, and then, when they come to trial, they'll either, I didn't really mean that, or I don't remember that, or no, that's not really what happened, that sort of thing. And so those are the surprises that you see. You don't hardly ever see, the real perpetrator come walking through the courtroom doors at the end of the trial. Not really those kinds of surprises.
Well, because there's tons of movies with dramatic courtroom scenes where there's twists and turns, but that's not reality. Is that what you're saying?
We had this discussion the other day, and I think one of the movies that came closest to like a real trial was My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, really?
If you've seen that, I mean, that's pretty close. Yeah. And things like that do happen. Usually not in the courtroom, but it's close to a lot of the real things that go on in the courtroom.
So like something like the O.J. Simpson trial.
Mhm.
Like I remember watching that
Yeah.
when I was younger, and it was kind of boring for the most part. They do say the same thing, repeat the same questions over and over and over. And because we watched those movies, it seemed like they were actually going to get to something amazing. It wasn't really that,
Right.
was it?
Right. No, it wasn't. And actually, I remember that too, because I think that was my first year of law school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole class was, watching the OJ trial in their off time.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that verdict came down, there was pandemonium in my class. Nobody could believe that he was not guilty. But and that's what you see most of the time. It's a lot of build up and then
No, they're there.
no, they're there. Yeah.
So the popular statement that was made there was, if it don't fit, you must acquit.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big mistake on their part, on the prosecution, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah.
What would happen if it slipped right on? Who knows?
Yeah.
There were so many other things that went on in that trial. I don't remember if the Furman thing, Mark Furman.
Mm-hmm.
The racial
Right.
perspective of it, that issue getting tossed right in the middle of the open courtroom. And
was Furman on the OJ, or was he the Rodney King?
I think he was OJ.
OJ? Okay. I don't remember. Those two kind of are
they weren't that far apart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was it? Just a few years.
Probably so.
Because it was Rodney King may have been a few years before. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that, but I remember the footage, but I just don't remember the time frame.
Yeah, well, I have ranch gloves that I use, and I'll use them one day, and the next day, they don't fit at all. Mm-hmm. Like they're completely shrunk up.
Yeah. Depends on how much you sweat.
Yeah, and I don't know what the purpose of that question was in that, but it kind of really. Do you think he would have been found guilty if they wouldn't have done that?
I don't know. And the glove was, well, if I remember right, it was soaked in blood. And of course, it's not going to fit. And plus, I remember watching it, and I don't think OJ was really trying to get it on. It seemed like he was. Oh, it don't fit. But,
yeah.
But who knows? The way that trial went. All the tension. I don't know if one particular piece of evidence did it or not.
Are you a Seinfeld fan at all?
As I've gotten older, I've become more of a Seinfeld fan.
Did you watch the episode with the bomb?
With the bomb?
With the bomb, where Kramer gets burned with coffee or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he gets his attorney, and somebody tells him to put this cream, some balm on the burn, and it heals it. Yeah. He said, "Who told you to put the balm on?"
Yeah, that was his attorney was Jackie Childs, right?
Jackie Childs, yeah.
And well, he had the same experience when he was smoked all those cigarettes and had disfigured himself, and then settled with, I guess it was Marlboro. But did the underwear ad or something,
something. I don't remember that episode. I just remember that one with the coffee. He was getting ready to get a settlement, but they said all the free coffee you can get. He jumped on that and shook hands. And Jackie Childs was pretty bothered and upset with that. But yeah, I like Seinfeld was one of my favorite shows when I was growing up.
I wasn't a real big fan when it was on TV, but as I'd gotten older, I started to enjoy it more.
Yeah,
and luckily it's in syndication, so it's on everywhere. But
a show about nothing.
That's right. Yeah. The TV shows were a lot different then, because you had that era of like Cheers and then Seinfeld after it. And I guess I wasn't a big fan of Friends either, but I think that came right after Seinfeld.
So I was coming right out of high school, or I was in high school, coming out of high school when Seinfeld and Friends was a big deal. So we all wanted to mimic that whole group relationship kind of thing with our friends. And so it was a big hit for us. And it was the 90s. Mm-hmm. You were.
I'm a little bit older. So
yeah?
I graduated in 91.
Oh, really?
And so all the girls in my high school were watching Beverly Hills 90210.
Still, yeah.
And, I didn't really care for that.
Yeah, I graduated in 93, so we're just 2 years apart.
Just a couple of years.
Yeah, that's all.
90210. The girls in LaGrange, Texas.
Yeah.
Fascinated by Beverly Hills high school students,
So you're from LaGrange.
I'm
You
from
grew up in
LaGrange, yeah.
Okay. That's in the area of like Hallettsville and all that?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, it's 35 miles north of Hallettsville and 77.
That's a beautiful part of this state.
It is.
There's a place called Bottom or Round Bottom or
Round Rock?
No,
Round Top.
Round Top. It looks like a little Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Is that close by?
Yeah,
LaGrange?
it's about 20 minutes east of LaGrange.
Yeah, that's an amazing little place.
Yeah.
I discovered that last year. I was driving through to go to a wedding, and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah. We grew up in there, and so we spent all our childhood driving around out there, and that was always on the way to something.
Yeah,
Brenham was a place we went to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Brenham and Austin.
Right.
And so Round Top was on the way to Brenham. That's where all of our school stuff went.
So what happens there? Is that an actual town? Round Top?
Yeah.
It just looks like something out of a Hallmark movie or something.
It used to be everybody out there was either farming or ranching, and then it became more of my theory. I never verified it, but was all the doctors and lawyers from Houston started buying all the properties, and so it went from being a farming and ranching town to more of a tourist attraction.
Mm-hmm.
They have the antique fairs twice a year now, and so I think that's on one of the TV networks. When some business does a stand out there, and
really,
but yeah, I always thought it was beautiful out there.
Yeah, I drove through there in December, early December, or mid-December, and it was just decked out for Christmas. It was beautiful.
And as you drive into town, there's a little farm on the side on the highway that's got a white fence all the way around the property, and I was always fascinated. I always thought
I believe that I remember that property.
And,
very nice.
Then you always see the little log cabin, that's still there. Yeah. So I always remember it. We never found much to do there, but
are you a nostalgia type of person? You like nostalgia?
I think so.
Yeah.
But the older I get, I think that I start to recognize that nostalgia is not just a place; it's a time too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of bursts my bubble anytime I start getting nostalgic. I think, well, that was a fun place, but that was a fun time too, and that time's gone.
Yeah.
And that's when my nostalgic bubble bursts. And
recently I started thinking, like, I wonder if it would be nice, I know we probably wouldn't do that, but it would be nice if God gave us an opportunity to go back to maybe a week in our childhood, or maybe a weekend, and just be a fly on the wall, experiencing what we went through, but not ourselves, just viewing it and checking it out to see how a Friday night watching Dukes of Hazzard and stuff played out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That would be nice. I don't know if I'd do anything different.
But, just to watch it, just to see and observe. I was sharing this with somebody, and they said, that's great and all, but if you went back and did that, you might find out that things were not the way you remember them. Things didn't go down the way you remember them.
And, that's a pretty valid point, because you're looking back through, rose-colored lenses. And, when you go back, it may not be quite as charming as you remember it. That's another way to think about it. Yeah. Because at the time, you didn't really think anything special of it.
Right.
And so
you're right.
Maybe it's just the tint of hindsight, but You know, like when I go to Austin, if we're there for any period of time, about a day or two into it, I kind of start to miss Austin, and the Austin that I remembered doesn't exist anymore.
No,
I mean it's 30 years ago, and so by about after 2 days, my nostalgia is gone.
It's
and I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
Because I'm done with the traffic. I'm done with the parking. I'm done with just the silliness, and I'm ready to come back home.
Done with the weirdness.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it used to be a big thing. They'll keep Austin weird, and then
It still is.
yeah, and then I went. I'm like, yeah, this is not good weird. This is whack weird.
There's a lot of things that make you just shake your head, and there's a lot of things that'll make you chuckle too.
Yeah. So do you think that Austin is becoming like a San Francisco or an LA or something like that?
I don't know. I've never been to either San Francisco or LA. I would be very confident saying it's just completely different from about any place else in Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's close to that, because the great thing about Austin is you still have the great Austin things, like the scenery. I mean, the hills, the lakes, Barton Springs. A lot of the places I enjoyed are still there. They're just different, and I'm different. But I mean, so there's that. I mean, there's kind of that baseline, and you can still kind of get the historical nostalgia, I guess. But and I went to UT there, and so UT is still there. It's completely different, but it's also very much the same. And so I can still find things that I did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I hope it's not like San Francisco or Los Angeles, because I've never been, and I don't really have any desire to go.
Right.
I mean, I just don't know what I would go there to see. Now, maybe, some of the Napa Valley or something like that I might want to go see. But.
Yeah. Do you believe that? Well, California is a beautiful place. I just think the politics and the government and all that kind of stuff is messing it up. But other than that, it's a beautiful place. Yeah. It's got the mountains, it's got the ocean, it's got all kinds of nice things. Would you say that at one time Austin was a symbol of what Texas was like, or was a good representation of Texas? Or do you think it's never really been?
Well, I think that in a way it still is. I think that it still represents Texas individualism and Texas spirit, and maybe one extreme of it. But I think in a way it still does.
In a way it does, yeah.
We were talking about this the other day too. One of the things I love about Austin is, and this is different from Houston or Dallas or, well, not San Antonio, but when you go downtown, you can see a building that was built in 1856 right next to a 56-story skyscraper. An 1856 story built out of limestone blocks that were quarried right there, in the area next to a 56-story skyscraper. And that is, I think that's very Texas.
Yeah.
And, so that blend of the history and the future, or the present and the future, I guess, really, I think that's really unique. And I think that that's a very, it's a very unique reflection of Texas, because Texas is really so diverse. I mean, there really is so much diversity that, something like that is the perfect embodiment of that diversity. And then you can go a few blocks over and, you can see a completely different culture, from the turn of the 20th century. And, so that all those differences making up the whole, I think is just one of the great things, and probably one of those things that keeps drawing me back there, just kind of that identity.
I think there's a certain pride, I think, that goes into Texans, or that comes from Texans, and just to live in Texas, we're very proud of it. And
right. I was thinking that, it dawned on me yesterday, like, How many states have songs that say "God bless Texas"? You know, like "God bless Delaware." Or, you know, you don't hear that. You know, and,
I was in Israel some years back, and they know Texas. Like, if you show them a picture of our state, that's Texas.
Right.
They know the flag. I don't know that you could say the same thing about many other states or any other state.
No, I don't think so. And it's really common throughout Europe too. They love Texas, and I was there in the late '80s for the first time, and I wore my Longhorns jacket. And everywhere we went, like in Munich or Stuttgart, you know, you would hear whispering, you know, so Texas, Texas. And so, I mean, it makes a big impression all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing in Israel, but we took a cruise about 14 years ago, and we were in Estonia. And that's a little old Soviet bloc country out in the middle of nowhere. And they had a place called the Texas Bar and or Texas Parlor, something like that. And it was supposed to be a Texas beer joint in Estonia. And, you know, so we were all shocked by that. But, you know, I mean, that's how far it goes.
Well, there's Texas, Texas roadhouses, like all over the country as well.
Yeah. And now Whataburger's everywhere too.
Yeah. They stole Whataburger.
Yeah. That's the biggest crime of the century.
Yeah, it was when they sold it to Chicago.
Yeah. Why did it have to be Chicago?
Yeah. Their chicken burgers, I don't know if you remember their Whata chickens. They changed them. And they've never been the same. It's been one of my gripes for a long time because they had those sweet wheat buns, and the chicken was just great.
Yep.
That was one of my go-tos at Whataburger. You never see me get a chicken burger anymore.
Yeah.
But
I don't go back to Whataburger anymore. I was so mad about that I'm done with Whataburger.
It still beats In-N-Out. I'll say that.
I've never been to In-N-Out. I've tried Five Guys, but I've never done In-N-Out.
In-N-Out's not all that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of hype, and California tries to be proud of it and stuff, but I've tried it, and I'm a pretty good judge of food, and it's like, it's just like, it's not all that.
Yeah.
You mentioned Estonia. That is in... Is that in Russia?
No, it is. When you get up there in the North Sea, it's one of these, you know, countries that kind of wraps around the sea, and it's tied very closely to the old Soviet Union.
Oh, okay.
It's an independent country now.
Have you been to the Soviet Union?
I spent a day in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
And that was on that same cruise. And that's the only time I've been in Russia.
And what is that like?
Well, the weird thing, okay, so St. Petersburg is very far north. And in the winters, it is brutal. I mean, it's just snowed in, and it's miserable. But we were there on the one hot day they had, you know, and it was probably 90, 92 degrees. But the problem is they don't have air conditioning because it's never hot.
It's usually cold.
Right. And so I was about to pass out on the bus because there was no air moving. But I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it's old.
Yeah.
And so we went to the Hermitage Museum, saw some, you know, really fantastic art, went to the cathedral, and that was where they had buried the Romanovs after they had been assassinated. Right outside of St. Petersburg is a little village called Pushkin, and it was named, or the poet Alexander Pushkin is from that town, and that's also the summer palace for the czars. And I forget what it is. It's not topaz, but it's one of those precious stone type. They had literally lined the walls of the palace with it. And so while we were there, they were renovating. During World War II, the Nazis had come through and they had just looted the place. And the Soviet regime never really had any real incentive to renovate. So It wasn't until after the Soviet Union fell that they started renovating, and they would have to raise money, so they'd have concerts and stuff. But we got to tour that, and that's just another beautiful place. The thing that struck me most about going to the palace was in the parking lot. There was probably like an 86 or 88 Chevy Suburban, jacked up, with an old dog sleeping under it. And I thought, man, there's rednecks everywhere. So
Yeah,
I had to take a
they get
picture
around,
of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Russia, the Soviet Union is communist. Do you feel that? Do you sense that when you're out there?
We were so far removed from it. We literally got off the boat, walked through customs, and they made it very clear that no messing around. And so we went through. Nobody said anything stupid. We went and did our business, came back, and that was the extent of it. My wife would be a much better authority on that. She grew up in Moscow, and so while we were there, we actually met with one of her cousins who had driven in just to have lunch with us, or I don't remember if we had lunch or if we just got to see him, say hello, and then had to go. But it's a lot different, as I understand it now, than it was 35, 40 years ago.
How so? Because your wife is Judge Ina Klein,
Right?
And she was mentioning to me yesterday about that little history about where she came from.
She immigrated in 91, I believe. 91.
Really? That recent?
So it was right before the Soviet Union fell or disbanded, however you want to put it. So I always joke with her that they couldn't live without her. And so, but their immigration is a story in itself. But the way she describes Moscow is, or back then at least, it's just not a very friendly place if you're not the right person. If you're not in the right class, if you're not in the right religion, and of course there was no religion, but you are not. There's open discrimination, open hostility. There's corruption everywhere. So at one point I had taken Russian lessons from a friend of mine. He was a chemistry professor here at A&M, and he was from Moscow or somewhere around there. And since he was a chemistry professor, he knew how to brew moonshine. He wouldn't call it vodka; he called it moonshine. And so I would meet with him once a week, trying to learn Russian. Excuse me. And he'd gotten sick, but he brewed like 5 gallons of moonshine in his kitchen. And so he was walking around with a bottle of moonshine, smoking a cigarette. And I said, that's probably not good if you're sick. And he goes, no, it's perfect. But what he was doing was he was brewing that moonshine. He was going to bottle it. He was about to take a trip back to Russia. So he's going to take the bottles with him for bribes. So,
really?
That's, still, somewhat common.
Wow.
And so that's, when you have to make accommodations for bribes, that's a different culture.
Oh yeah. Do you have conversations with your wife about maybe how she sees tides turning here in America, in comparison to maybe what she saw back home?
I don't think she's ever made that comparison. We talk about current events all the time, as married people do. And there's things that, concern, and there's things that make you optimistic. And you look for you want to look for the optimism more each day as we go by.
Silver lining.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad that she has that, and that you both have that, especially her coming from that. Sometimes you you get traumatized a little bit that you start seeing it everywhere and you're trying to protect yourself from it.
Well, one of the things she used to say about Moscow was there was no unorganized crime. Everything there was organized. You know, if if it was unorganized, somebody was going to take care of it.
Yeah. It was about to get organized.
That's right.
So going back to your position as a judge, you are the judge of the 148th District Court.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work in the intake department of the what do you call it? Probation department.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the 94th with Judge Hunter.
Yep.
What do the names, what's the significance in the different numbers, rather, of the courts?
So district courts are created by the legislature. They're provided for in the Constitution, but the specific courts are created by the legislature, and it's based on a population and kind of a need formula. So whenever the legislature creates a court, they may create it to be, you know, just a general jurisdiction court, or they may say, you know, it's a court that is supposed to focus on family law but otherwise have general jurisdiction. So the numbers are just the order in which those courts were created. Okay. So the 90, you know, so the 28th, I guess, would be the oldest in the county, and then the 94th.
Judge McCauley.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like my court, the 148th, the creating statute it requires that, you know, or says that we're supposed to focus on family law, but otherwise we're a court of general jurisdiction, meaning that we hear felonies, we hear family law, we hear civil litigation. The difference, like, between us and a county court at law is we don't hear probate, we don't hear misdemeanors, and we don't do the mental health cases. So they do those.
Who does those?
The county court at law.
Okay.
And those are created by the legislature too.
Okay. So how many courts do we have?
We have 13 county court at law and district courts. There's 8 district courts, and there are 5 county court at law. One of our district courts is a multi-county district court. The 105th covers Nueces, Clayburgh, and Kennedy County.
Okay. So whenever you run for a particular court, is there a restriction as to which number you can run in?
No. And there's no particular area, like the court is not assigned like a precinct or anything.
Yeah.
It's countywide. And, you know, there's really no restriction on, you know, you can run for whichever court you want. The courts are staggered. 5 of the district courts are on one cycle and 3 are on the other. And all the county court at law, all of them are on the same cycle, same election cycle.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I'm up this year, so I'm on the governor cycle, and the others are on the president's cycle.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, as long as I've been on this earth, I didn't know there was a presidential and a governor cycle.
Well, we do it every 2 years, and when Ina's on the presidential cycle, so it's become really clear to us.
Yeah. So you're running for re-election,
right?
Right. What is I had this question. What is like the motive, or what is a desire or a goal whenever you're running for a court? Like, what's your desire to? What do you desire to accomplish when you run for these positions?
I ran for this court because this one wasn't working. Okay. It was really getting backlogged, and it wasn't moving cases.
How does that end up happening?
Well, ultimately it's on the judge. I mean, the judge is ultimately responsible for moving the caseload. There's all kinds of things that, you know, bumps, you know, in the road that can prevent it. But ultimately that's who's responsible.
If they don't run, do they throw it to another court? Or do they just get stuck in that one?
You get stuck with the case. I mean, so for instance, right after I took office, the first criminal case we tried, had a criminal trial on, that defendant had been in jail for over 1,100 days. That's over 3 years.
Wow.
And, so that's the first thing we focused on.
Wow.
Was just, when I came in, I think there were 10 defendants that had been in jail for over a year, and over 50 that had been in jail for over 100 days.
Wow.
And so we just started attacking the jail list and getting those cases set for trials. They've got to be set so they can move, because number one, that's not really justice. Just to sit in jail without any kind of resolution.
Who was there before?
It was Carlos Valdez.
Mm.
And so that was the first thing we did was, the first thing, the main focus for, a good year was just cleaning up the jail. And we finally got it under, I think we've gotten it under control. We've only got 2 defendants that have been in over a year. One of them is waiting to go to the state hospital, and that's a 2-year wait sometimes. And I think we've got it down to like 18 or 19 over 100.
So from those, what do you call them? The people that are in, what would you call them?
The defendants?
Defendants?
Yeah.
From those that were there over a year, how many of those were innocent? Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of not guilties in there.
And yet they had spent a year.
They had spent that much time in there. There were several not guilties. There were several dismissals where they didn't even go to trial.
Wow.
Nobody's ever asked me that, so I'm trying to think through my, kind of scroll back and think about that. Yeah, there were a lot that you kind of look at them and go, this guy sat in jail for 3 years, and this is.
Do they get compensated in some way?
No.
Sorry,
No,
that's all you get.
You get out.
Oh wow.
Well, like that first trial, at 1,100 days, when you do the math, it costs the sheriff $85 a day to house somebody, to feed them, and basically provide for them for a day. And so I think it came out to like $90,000. And, it was just a matter of getting it to trial.
So did this defendant not have an attorney?
No, he had an attorney.
And what was that attorney doing?
Well, I don't know what he was doing, but it was just a matter of getting it in there and forcing it to
Can
happen.
that attorney try to get it into another court? Or you're
I guess
stuck?
he could. I mean, theoretically, he's stuck. I mean,
Because that's a long time.
It's a long time.
To be not guilty.
Well, that wasn't the way the case worked out. But
Not for him.
Not for him. But, and that's why we made a priority of it. We were trying to get those numbers manageable.
Yeah.
Because at the time our jail was running over 95%.
Yeah.
Something like that. And the state really considers 90% to be full. And so we were getting to the point where we're going to have to start shipping inmates to other counties again, like we did during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so number one, that was, it's just something we needed to do. So we did it. And I got to give a lot of credit to staff. We went to work on it. We just, we were running dockets every week. Docket calls every week, just trying to get them moving.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not moving, we're resetting them for another week. We're not giving them a bunch of time. So it was just a matter of sitting down and doing it.
So what was the total number of defendants that were needing to get processed when you got there?
I don't know. The ones I really pay attention to, I really pay attention when they've been in 90 days and more.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I really pay attention to is when I look at my jail list, I'm looking at defendants that have been in jail for a couple of weeks on a low level offense, and seeing if there's some way to move that, because it's obvious at that point, with the low level offense, that they're not going to make their bond and they're just going to sit there. So
Yeah.
There's got to be some other resolution.
Yeah. Got to get it processed and whatever's going to happen, right?
Right. And try to get that going.
So is the goal is just to apply justice and to keep the county from having to pay so much money on each defendant?
Well, that's one of them. But, what I'm really trying to pay attention to is making sure that justice gets delivered.
Mm-hmm.
I look at agreements, and whenever there's an agreement made, I look at it and try to make sure that, this is appropriate. Trying to make sure that the victim or the alleged victim is on board with it, because they have a right to be informed of those kind of things. So we're trying to make sure, or I'm trying to make sure that justice is, fair resolution, prompt resolution, and that everybody's rights are maintained. And it's a delicate balance, because you don't always have the full story, and sometimes you just have to start asking questions. And if you don't like the answers, sometimes you just have to say, nope, we're gonna put this back on the trial docket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you have an opponent?
I do.
Yeah. Who's the opponent?
Carlos Valdez.
Really? He's trying to get it back?
Yes, sir.
What would you say his motive would be?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's moving too fast over there. So I was gonna say, like, what do they run on? Like, what do they say they're gonna come in and do?
I haven't heard anything. So I'm out just spreading my message that I did what I said I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked, we keep working. And one of the things we do is we don't really stick to, like, we have an 8:30 docket and a 1:30 docket, but I'm there all day.
Mm-hmm.
And so when lawyers come in and they've got everybody together, court reporters there, they're there. So we'll go take care of it at 11 o'clock or, take care of it at 4 o'clock. And that just makes sure that cases keep moving and we don't have to reset it to an entirely different day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's been helpful to keep things moving. I have great staff, and when they all came on with me, I told them, I said, we're going to work. It's going to be 8 to 5,
mm-hmm.
and maybe later sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been up there at 10 o'clock on Friday night waiting on a jury.
Wow.
So they've all been on board. So we've had a pretty good team to keep it moving, and that's just what we've done.
That's good. And your wife is a judge as well, and she's a judge in which court?
214th.
214th. So now, what is it like to be married to a judge? Because there's certain places you guys cannot be at the same time, and things like that.
Right.
How does that work out for you guys?
I'll say it.
Can't be in the same pictures. And
well,
stuff like
and yeah. I mean, because usually one of us is running, so we can't be seen as endorsing one or the other.
Yeah.
But when I got elected, we kind of had this thought that we'll carpool together and we'll see each other all the time. We barely see each other.
Wow.
So like, she's got to go, at a certain time. I've got to go at a certain time, and she's busy doing her thing. I'm busy doing mine. We may see each other a couple of times in the day, but usually it's, kiss goodbye in the morning and a kiss, in the afternoon when I get home. So, the one of the things that has been really cool is the teamwork. I picked a jury this morning, and so when I'm in trial, she can hear my docket and vice versa. So, that way those cases don't have to get rescheduled, or not all of them anyway. She can take the stuff, and I do it for her too. And any judge in the courthouse can do that. It can be, and it used to be that way when one judge was in trial, somebody else would pick up their docket, so that those cases didn't have to get reset. But it's really cool to be able to do that. And she's been a judge longer, so she's one of those people I can ask a question of, what would you do on this or something like that.
Good. So, have you ever been on a podcast before?
No,
No.
no. We started to be on one, and it just never got finished.
Which one was that?
It's an old law school buddy was he was doing a podcast interviewing judges,
Really?
and so we never finished it.
So y'all started. Not even an episode got done.
He's released some episodes, but he was going to interview Ina and I together.
Oh, okay.
And we started it, and I don't remember what happened, but something happened, and it never got wrapped up.
Oh well.
So I don't know if I don't think he ever released it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about podcasts? You listen to them?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. My favorite time to listen to podcasts is when I'm on the way to San Antonio or when I'm traveling, when I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, my iTunes is the music that I've heard a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always asking our kids, like, what are you listening to on the podcast? What, and everybody else that I know, I'm like, what are you listening to? Because we're always trying to find something interesting to listen to. We both like, Texas Monthly does these true crime podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think.
And those are great for long trips because they're 8 or 9 episodes, and they'll last the whole trip.
I believe that's like the most or the highest watched podcasts are the crime ones.
Wouldn't surprise me. But so when you can listen to something from the beginning to the end in one trip, and
what are y'all's kids listening to?
They're always listening to. Well, their musical taste is different from ours.
Yeah. But as far as podcasts,
they've always got something new they're listening to, and it's never the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't remember anything in particular.
What are some of your top podcasters?
Well, my favorite is the Texas Monthly. So whenever they come out, I love to listen to them. There's a Lutheran pastor out of Austin named Wolf Mueller, and I like to listen to his podcast too. And I've only listened to one of yours, but I enjoyed it with Denise.
Oh yeah,
and, but the Texan. I don't know if it's a news podcast, and they do like a weekly roundup, I guess, and it's about an hour, so it gets us halfway to San Antonio.
Yeah. I love doing it. I love having conversations with people. Some people say, "Who are you going to interview?" I was like, I don't even like to call it an interview. I have conversations with people. I learn a lot. Just sitting here with you, I've learned a lot about the courts and just a lot about things that I probably wouldn't learn just having a conversation at a meet and greet.
Well, when we started, I was kind of nervous because we've got all these cameras and these mics and the headphones. But you're right; it's just turned into a conversation, and so it's a lot more at ease that way. Yeah,
I really do enjoy it, and sometimes I'll start talking to my guests before we start, and I'm like, "Oh, stop! We can talk about that." We never do. Mm-hmm. Then afterwards, we continue on conversations, and it's really enjoyable. It's become one of my favorite things to do. One of the questions that I try to like to close the podcast with is about God. I know you guys attend Annabelle Baptist Church. Is that correct?
Well, we regularly attend there, but that's one of the services I go to. I also go to a Lutheran service on a regular basis. I really like the liturgical service, and so I'll go there to get my communion and get my liturgy in.
So explain to me what liturgical, what the liturgy, what is?
Well, when you think of like the Catholic Church and the responses and the creeds and the that sort of thing, that's more of the liturgical service. So y'all go
to see Pastor Simmons, and then y'all go out there?
Yeah.
Or at least you do.
Yeah.
Good. So
will go with me. It just kind of, I go on Wednesdays during lunch. So she'll go with me if she's got time. If she's got another commitment, then she'll go do that.
How would you say that God impacts or influences your life and how you sit on the bench and your decision making and all that?
I was thinking about that, and I don't know how you separate your faith
Right.
from whatever you do. I don't know that I do anything in particular because of my faith, but I don't know how I would ever identify anything that I would do differently because it is part of what I am. It is part of my identity. So, you know, I think I lean on it more in the tough days, and at times, you know, you think about it, and then you think about, you know, and I don't know that I've ever had a situation come up where like the decision I wanted to make was in conflict with my faith. So I haven't had that dilemma yet, and at least that I would recognize. So, you know, that's a really hard question because, like,
Well,
I think it impacts everything I do, and so like whenever I like my relationships, I think it impacts my relationships and the way I look at life. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think that might be the answer. It just really is part of who I am and the way I look at things.
So I guess that is the goal, to get to where the decision you want to make doesn't contradict
Right.
what your faith would move you to the decision your faith would move you to make. And I think that takes place when you get rooted in your faith. And the scripture says that we ought to be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth its fruit, producing fruit. Its leaf is not withering, but it's because of the root system that is pulling from that river, from that water source. A lot of times we see the fruit, we see the leaves, but we don't know where that's coming from.
Right.
And I believe that the decisions we make, the choices, how we look at life even, and how we look at things to judge them, it's coming from somewhere unseen, and it's from our source, and it should impact everything like that.
And I definitely see that in a, you know, part of life and faith is, you know, the recognition of two kingdoms, you know, and recognize the differences between the two. You know, there certainly could be some decisions that would, you know, put me in a faith dilemma. But you know, like I said, luckily I've not had those. And I think with the way things have gone, that may not happen. But
yeah, do you think that the law was here in America was established to be in line with the laws of our faith?
I think it was definitely modeled that way. Because if you look at the most basic laws, don't steal, don't kill, you know, and you know, for the longest time, you know, it was a crime to be unfaithful to your spouse.
Right.
You know, those are all biblical principles. They're all faith principles, no matter which faith.
Right.
So I think it was definitely modeled that way. I think that we have probably moved away from that in a lot of ways with our laws. I don't think they're as nearly modeled that way, and it may just be shades of gray. You know, I'm trying to think of specific things,
and probably to our detriment, right? When they remove things like that.
Well, when there's no consequences, when there's no rules, you know, there's no order, and when there's no order, you know, bad things happen.
Right.
And so I think they were definitely modeled that way. And that may have just been tradition. I think it was intentional, but
Mhm.
it may have just been kind of, well, this is the way we've always done it. And,
Yeah, even the Constitution, that they are God-given
well, and that was the
rights.
big debate of the Constitution. There was a debate on whether we needed a Bill of Rights because if they're God given, why do you have to write them down? And so if you write them down, now you're starting to limit them. And so
Yeah.
those debates have been going on for
The thing is that when people start moving away from God, then those God-given rights, some could say they don't belong to you, right? But God gave them to me. Well, I don't believe in God. You know what I mean? So I choose to take those rights away from you. And that's where I think we got to be very careful.
You have to be. You have to be. I have this thought a lot of times that I'm a judge, but I'm not that judge. And so I have to stay in my lane, and and that's hard for society to do. That's hard for us to do individually sometimes. But when we think about it, like stay in your lane, and you're better off. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all have our place. I think we all, like you said, a lane. We all have our purpose and our assignment from God, and I believe that God gives us the grace to be able to accomplish and fulfill those roles. And being a judge is one of those, that has to be taken very seriously.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people's lives are at stake and the decisions and the rulings that are made. So I compliment you, congratulate you on that, and I encourage you to always have that faith and see God for those decisions that are needing to be made, those judgments that are needing to be made. And I'm glad to know that's your source.
Yeah, there's a lot of days, when you have to kind of just go home and decompress.
I bet.
And lean back, and you think, well, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And
Well, I pray that God gives you the strength, all the strength that you need to be able to do what you do. And I support you in your run here coming up. I believe that you're a honorable and honest man that God is using. So keep up the good work.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. And thank you for joining me in the den.
No, I enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Right.